Blog Talk Radio.
And it's the music of Lionel Jones taken from the CD, Papa Jones CD. The music of Lionel Jones, who will be with us probably the month of October. Probably is going to be on a Tuesday, probably late night. And it is not in concrete just yet, but I had a conversation with Brother Lionel Jones, and he will be with us right here on Let's Talk, featuring his music from the Papa Jones CD. Brought to you by the Men Empowered Late Night Smooth Jazz Gospel Sunday. Well, Shalom Israel, and everyone else, good evening, good afternoon, good morning to you and yours, wherever you are on the World Wide Web. You are listening to Let's Talk, brought to you by the Men Empowered Organization, right here on the Blog Talk Radio Network at blogtalkradio.com. My name is Brother MALACHI. I am your host and founder of the Men Empowered Organization. It is a Sunday, September the 22nd, 2013. We are here for the makeup edition of Late Night, the book of Jasher, chapter 49 and 50. After tonight and starting tomorrow, we will be back on track with the book of Jasher. As you know, we've had some technical difficulties, so this is why we are back here on a Sunday late night, the book of Jasher. So we will begin momentarily, but we want to go ahead and play some more great jazz music since it is Smooth Jazz Gospel Sunday. Here's Joel McCray. And this the music of Joel McCrae, taken from the CD Song for You, Joel McCrae, right here on the archives of Smooth Jazz Gospel Sunday, and it is Late Night with the book of Jasher. Jasher chapter 49, verse 1. After these things, the king sent and assembled all his officers and servants and all the princes and nobles belonging to the king, and they all came before the king. Verse 2, and the king said unto them, Behold, you have seen and heard all the words of this Hebrew man, and all the signs which he declared would have come to pass, and not in any of his words have fallen to the ground. 3, you know that he has given a proper interpretation of the dream, and it will surely come to pass. Now therefore take counsel and know what you will do and how the land will be delivered from this famine. 4, seek now and see whether the like can be found, in whose heart there is wisdom and knowledge, and I will appoint him over the land. 5, for you have heard what the Hebrew man has advised concerning this, to save the land therewith from the famine. And I know that the land will not be delivered from the famine, but with the advice of the Hebrew man, him that advised me. 6, and they all answered the king and said, the counsel which the Hebrew has given concerning this is good. Now therefore, our Lord and King, behold, the whole land is in thy hand. Do that which seeth good in thy sight. 7, him who thou chosen, and whom thou in that wise knowest to be and capable of delivering the land with his wisdom, him shall the king appoint to be under him over the land. 8, and the king said to all the officers, I have thought that since God has made known to the Hebrew man all that he has spoken, there is none so discreet and wise in the whole land as he is. If it seems good in your sight, I will place him over the land, for he will save the land with his wisdom. 9, and all the officers answered the king and said, but surely it is written in the laws of Egypt, and it should not be violated, that no man shall reign over Egypt, nor be the second to the king, but one who has knowledge in all the languages of the sons of men. 10, now therefore, our Lord and King, behold, this Hebrew man can only speak the Hebrew language, and how then can he be over us, the second under government, a man who not even know our language? 11, now we pray thee, send for him, and let him come before thee, and prove him in all things, and do as thou see fit. 12, and the king said, it shall be done tomorrow, and the thing that you have spoken is good. And all the officers came on that day before the king. 13, and on that night the Lord sent one of his ministering angels, and he came into the land of Egypt unto Joseph. And the angel of the Lord stood over Joseph, and behold, Joseph was lying in bed at night in his master's house in the dungeon, for his master had put him back into the dungeon on account of his wife. 14, and the angel roused him from his sleep, and Joseph rose up and stood upon his legs, and behold, the angel of the Most High was standing opposite to him, and the angel of the Most High spoke with Joseph, and he taught him all the languages of man in that night, and he called his name Joseph. Verse 15, and the angel of the Most High went from him, and Joseph returned and lay up on his bed. And Joseph was astonished at the vision which he saw. Verse 16, and it came to pass in the morning that the king sent for all his officers and servants, and they all came and sat before the king. And the king ordered Joseph to be brought And the king's servants went and brought Joseph before Pharaoh. 17. And the king came forth and ascended the steps of the throne. And Joseph spoke unto the king in all languages. And Joseph went up to him and spoke unto the king until he arrived before the king in the seventieth step. And he sat before the king. 18. And the king greatly rejoiced on account of Joseph, and all the king's officers rejoiced greatly with the king when they heard all the words of Joseph. 19. And the thing seemed good in the sight of the king and all the officers to appoint Joseph to be second to the king over the whole land of Egypt. And the king spoke to Joseph, saying, 20. Now thou hast this give me counsel to appoint a wise man over the land of Egypt, in order with his wisdom to save the land from the famine. Now therefore, since the Most High God has made all this known to thee, and all the words which thou hast spoken, there is not throughout the land a discreet and wise man like unto thee. 21. And the name no more shall be called Joseph, but zapnath-panneah shall be thy name. Thou shalt be second to me, and according to thy word shall be all the affairs of my government. And at thy word shall my people go out and come in. 22. Also from under thy hand shall my servants and officers receive their salary, which is given to them monthly. And to thee shall all the people of the land bow down. Only in my throne will I be greater than thou. 23. And the king took off his ring from his hand and put it upon the hand of Joseph. And the king dressed Joseph in a princely garment, and he put a golden crown upon his head, and he put a golden chain upon his neck. 24. And the king commanded his servants, and they made him ride in the second chariot belonging to the king that went opposite to the king's chariot. And he caused him to ride upon a great and strong horse from the king's horse, and to conduct through the streets of the land of Egypt. 25. And the king commanded that all those that played upon tambourines, harps, and other musical instruments should go forth with Joseph. 1,000 tambourines, 1,000 micalas, and 1,000 nimblins went after him. 26. And 5,000 men with drawn swords glittered in their hands, and they went marching and playing before Joseph. And 20,000 of the great men of the king, girt with girdles of skin covered with gold, marched at the right hand of Joseph, and 20,000 of his left. And all the women and damsels went upon the roof or stood in the streets playing and rejoicing at Joseph, and gazed at the appearance of Joseph and at his beauty. 27. And the king's people went before him and behind him, perfuming the road with frankincense and with cassia, and with all sorts of fine perfumes, and scattered myrrh and aloes along the road. And 20 men proclaimed these words before him throughout the land in a loud voice. Do you see this man whom the king has chosen to be at his second? All the affairs of government shall regulate by him, and he that transgresses his orders, or that does not bow down before him to the ground, shall die, for he rebels against the king and his second. 29. And when the heralds had ceased proclaiming, all the people of Egypt bowed down to the ground before Joseph and said, May the king live, also may the second live. And all the inhabitants of Egypt bowed down along the road. When the heralds approached them, they bowed down, and they rejoiced, and all sorts of tambourines, micalas, and nettles before Joseph. 30. And Joseph upon his horse lifted up his eyes to heaven and called out and said, He raiseth the poor man from the dust. He lifted up the needy from the dungeon. O Lord of hosts, happy is the man who trusted in thee. 31. And Joseph passed throughout the land of Egypt with Pharaoh's servants and officers, and they showed him the whole land of Egypt and all the king's treasures. Verse 32. And Joseph returned and came on that day before Pharaoh, and the king gave unto Joseph a possession in the land of Egypt, a possession of fields and vineyards. And the king gave unto Joseph 3,000 talents of silver and 1,000 talents of gold, and oxen stones, and bdellium, and many gifts. 33. And on the next day the king commanded all the people of Egypt to bring unto Joseph offerings and gifts, and that he that violated the command of the king should die. And they made a high place in the street of the city, and they spread out garments there. And whoever brought anything to Joseph put it into the high place. Verse 34. And all the people of Egypt cast something into the high place, one man a golden earring, and the other ring an earring, and the different vessels of gold and silver works. And oxen and stones and bdellium did he cast upon the high places. Everyone gave something of what he possessed. 35. And Joseph took all these and placed them in his treasury. And all the officers and nobles belonging to the king exalted Joseph. And they gave him many gifts, seeing that the king had chosen him to be his second. 36. And the king sent to Potiphar, the son of Aaron, priest of On, and he took his young daughter, Asenath, and gave her unto Joseph for a wife. And the damsel was very comely, a virgin, one whom man had not known, and Joseph took her for a wife. And the king said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and besides thee none shall dare to lift up his hand or his foot to regulate my people throughout the land of Egypt. 38. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, and Joseph went out from before the king, and he became the king's second in Egypt. 39. And the king gave Joseph 100 servants to attend him in his house. And Joseph also sent and purchased many servants, and they remained in the house of Joseph. 40. Joseph then built for himself a very magnificent house, like unto the houses of kings, before the court of the king's palace. And he made in the house a large temple, very elegant in appearance and convenient for his residence. 3 years was Joseph in erecting his house. Verse 41. And Joseph made himself a very elegant throne of abundance of gold and silver, and he covered it with oxen stones and bdellium. And he made upon it the likeness of the whole land of Egypt, and the likeness of the river of Egypt, that watereth the whole land of Egypt. And Joseph sat securely upon his throne in his house, and the Most High increased Joseph's wisdom. 42. And all the inhabitants of Egypt and Pharaoh's servants and his princes loved Joseph exceedingly, for this thing was from the Most High to Joseph. 43. And Joseph had an army that made war, going out in hosts and troops to the number of 40,600 men, capable of bearing arms to assist the king and Joseph against the enemies, besides the king's officers and his servants and inhabitants of Egypt without number. 44. And Joseph gave unto his mighty men and to all his hosts shields and javelins and caps and coats of mail and stones for singlings. Verse 40, well, that is the end of chapter 49. We're going to take a quick music break, and we'll be back with the conclusion of chapter 50 of the book of Jasher. We'll be right back right after this. And we are back with the book of Jasher, music of Creator, right there, so much, so many. And the book of Jasher, chapter 50. And the children of Tarshish spoiled the Ishmaelites for a long time. And the children of Ishmael were small in number in those days, and they could not prevail over the children of Tarshish, and they were sorely oppressed. Verse 3, and the old men of Ishmaelites sent a record to the king of Egypt, saying, send, I pray thee, to thy servants, officers and hosts, to help us to fight against the children of Tarshish. for we have been consuming away for a long time. And Pharaoh sent Joseph with the mighty men and hosts which were with him, and also his mighty men from the king's house. Verse 5. And they went to the land of Havilah to the children of Ishmael, to assist them against the children of Tarshish. And the children of Ishmael fought with the children of Tarshish, and Joseph smote the Tarshinites, and he subdued all their land. And the children of Ishmael dwell therein unto this day. Verse 6. And now I just want to let you know, you see, you got a Hebrew going to help Ishmael at that particular time. Verse 6. And when the land of Tarshish was subdued, all the Tarshinites ran away and came on the border of their brethren, the children of Javan. And Joseph went with all his men, with all his mighty men and hosts, returned to Egypt. Not one of them were missing. 7. And at the revolution of the year, in the second year of Joseph's reign over Egypt, the Most High gave great plenty throughout the land for 7 years, as Joseph has spoken. For the Most High blessed all the produce of the earth in those days for 7 years, and they ate and were greatly satisfied. 8. And Joseph at that time had officers under him, and they collected all the food of the good years, and heaped corn year by year, and they placed it into the treasuries of Joseph. 9. And at any time when they gathered the food, Joseph commanded that they should bring the corn in the ears, and also bring with it some of the soil of the field, and it should not spoil. 10. And Joseph did according to this year by year, and he heaped up corn like the sands of the sea for abundance, for his stories were immersed and could not be numbered for abundance. 8:11. And also of the inhabitants of Egypt gathered all sorts of food in their stores in great abundance during the 7 good years, but they did not do unto it as Joseph did. 12. And all the food which Joseph and the Egyptians had gathered during the 7 years of plenty was secured for the land in stores for the 7 years of famine, for the support of the whole land. And the inhabitants of Egypt filled each man his store and his concealed place with corn to be for support during the famine. 14. And Joseph placed all the food that he had gathered in all the cities of Egypt, and he closed all the stores and placed centurions over them. 15. And Joseph's wife, Osana, the daughter of Potiphar, bare him 2 sons, and here they are, Manasseh and Ephraim. That will be the birthright promise of the 12 tribes of Israel. And Joseph was 34 years old when he begot them. 16. And the last grew up, and they went in his ways and in his instructions. They did not deviate from the way which their father taught them, either to the right or the left. 17. And the Most High was with the lads, and they grew up and had understanding and skills in all wisdom and in all affairs of government. And all the king's officers and great men of the inhabitants of Egypt exalted the lads, and they were brought up among the king's children. 18. And the 7 years of plenty that were throughout the land were at an end, and the 7 years of famine came after them, as Joseph has spoken, and the famine was throughout the land. 19. And all the people of Egypt saw that the famine had commenced in the land of Egypt, and all the people of Egypt opened the stores of corn, and the famine prevailed over them. 20. And they found all the food that was in their stores full of vermin and not fit to eat, And the famine prevailed throughout the land, and all the inhabitants of Egypt came cried before Pharaoh, for the famine was heavy upon them. 21. And they said unto Pharaoh, Give food unto thy servants, and wherefore shall we die through hunger before thy eyes, even we and our little ones? 22. And Pharaoh answered them, saying, And wherefore do you cry unto me? Did not Joseph command that the corn should be laid up during the 7 years of plenty for the years of famine? And wherefore did you not hearken to his voice? 23. And the people of Egypt answered the king, saying, As thy soul liveth, our Lord, thy servants have done all that Joseph ordered. For the servants also gathered in all the produce of the field during the 7 years of plenty, and laid in it the stores unto this day. 24. And when the famine prevailed over thy servants, we opened our stores, and behold, all our produce was filled with vermin, and were not fit to eat. 25. And when the king heard all that had befallen the inhabitants of Egypt, the king was greatly afraid on account of the famine, and he was much terrified. And the king answered the people of Egypt, saying, Since all this has happened unto you, go unto Joseph, do whatever he shall say unto you, transgress not his commands. 26. And all the people of Egypt went forth and came unto Joseph, and said unto him, Give unto us food, and wherefore shall we die before thee through hunger? For we gathered in our produce during the 7 years, as thou didst command, and we put it in the store, and thus has it befallen us. And when Joseph heard all the words of the people of Egypt, and what had befallen them, Joseph opened all his stores of the produce, and he sold it unto the people of Egypt. 28. And the famine prevailed throughout the land, and the famine was in all countries, but in the land of Egypt there was produce for sale. 29. And all the inhabitants of Egypt came unto Joseph to buy corn, for the famine prevailed over them, and all their corn was spoiled. And Joseph daily sold it to all the people of Egypt. 30. And all the inhabitants of the land of Canaan, and the Philistines, and those beyond Jordan, and the children of the east, and all the cities of the land far and nigh, heard that there was corn in Egypt. And they all came to Egypt to buy corn, for the famine prevailed over them. 31. And Joseph opened the stores of corn, and placed officers over them. And they daily stood and sold to all that came. 32. And Joseph knew that his brethren also would come to Egypt to buy corn, for the famine prevailed throughout the earth. And Joseph commanded all his people that they should cause it to be proclaimed throughout the land of Egypt, saying, It is the pleasure of the king, of his second, and of the great men, that any person who wishes to buy corn in Egypt shall not send his servants to Egypt to purchase, but his sons, and also any Egyptian or Canaanite who shall come from any of the stores from buying corn in Egypt, and shall go and sell it throughout the land, he shall die, for no one shall buy but for the support of his own household. 34. And any man leading 2 or 3 beasts shall die, for a man shall only lead his own beast. 35. And Joseph placed sentinels at the gates of Egypt, and commanded them, saying, Any person who may come to buy corn, suffer him not to enter unto his name, and the name of his father, and the name of his father's father be written down. And whatever is written by day, send their names unto me in the evening, that I may know their names. And Joseph placed officers throughout the land of Egypt, and he commanded them to do all these things. Verse 37. And Joseph did all these things, and made their statutes in order, that he may know when his brethren should come to Egypt to buy corn. And Joseph's people caused it daily to be proclaimed in Egypt according to these words and statutes which Joseph had commanded. And all the inhabitants of the east and west country and all the earth heard of the statutes and regulations which Joseph had enacted in Egypt, and the inhabitants of the extreme parts of the earth came, and they brought corn in Egypt day after day, and then went away. 39. And all the officers of Egypt did as Joseph had commanded, and all that came to Egypt to buy corn, the gatekeepers would write their names and their fathers' names, and daily bring them in the evening before Joseph. Now, this is the conclusion of 50. We're getting ready to do chapter 51 and 52 this week, as well as 53 and 54. I want you all to pay attention closely this week. We will get into the 50s, the chapter 50s, and we're going to show you the power of the Israelites when kindled. That's right. We're going to show you the power of the Israelites when kindled. What kind of strength they will have when they're up against the wall. So this is Brother Malachi going to go ahead and sign off unless anyone has any questions. If you're in the chat room or listening to us, go ahead and we'll open it up. And since I don't see anybody raising their hand for any questions or comment, we're going to go ahead now and conclude tonight's lesson, and we will be back tomorrow at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. So until next time, this is Brother Malachi wishing you good evening and shalom.